Hello. So this is it. It's the end of the BMW 12.0 series. We are here in Barcelona. I can't believe it. It's been 12 weeks. We've got to the end. I've really enjoyed doing this series. I've really enjoyed reading all your comments. I read and reply to every single one. If you guys have got half as much as I've got out of doing this thing, I'm really pleased. But we are ending on a tough note. Barcelona is a beast. This is not my forte, this track. I've never driven it before, so the last couple of weeks I've been practicing, and I still haven't cracked it. I don't think I'm going to crack it until at least another season or two. But I've got a reasonable time. I'm about a second off the really good pace, so I'll take that. There isn't an easy corner here. So I'm really going to take my time to go through this. Hopefully you're going to have an easier time with this than I have. Fingers crossed. So it's the last week. If there is going to be a week 13 race for BMW 12, you're going to be on your own. You're going to have to fend for yourself. I'm going to be busy putting some videos together for the beginning of my next guide series, which is going to be based around IMSA. So 45-minute races, one enforced pit stop, multi-class racing. It's going to be fun. I really hope you come along for the ride. I'm going to stick in the Beamer. Although, some of it will be, applicable if you're in, say, a Ferrari or something like that. A lot of the stuff's applicable. There are bits and bobs that are very particular to particular cars. So GTE class in IMSA next season. I'm going to try and put a couple of pre kind of series guides together to help us all get off on the right foot. There's a few things to learn. So watch out for that in the coming week or two. But for now, let's do our usual thing. We'll have a look at the in-car. We'll slow it down, do a bit of light commentary, and then we'll go out to the far chase view and we'll break down every single corner. This is going to take a while. So sit back, relax, have fun, and thanks again for watching, and I'll be back with you in a mo. All right, so as we're coming down the straight, we want to be parked right over to the left. We've got some pretty wide curbing coming up. We want to use all of it. I don't actually use all of it here. You can actually get your left-hand wheels onto the green stuff down here. Recommend you do. Open the corner as wide as you can. Now, we're going to start braking by the lights, and we're going to brake pretty heavy here. We're going to come all the way down to second, turning in reasonably early. Now, I catch the yellow there, but actually you can get your right hand wheels to the right of it and be fine. out mid-corner here, and then we're going to just come off the brakes and just brake ever so slightly when the Pirelli sign starts, and then we're back on the gas really gently and progressively as the red marks in the distance appear. Coming out nice and wide here. Again, you can use all the green on exit here. Make this as wide as you can. We're braking right down into second, and we're turning in at the end of the curb, and we want to keep it tight, and we want to delay the gas until you can see the signs appearing there. Okay, hug close to the inside now, and we're going to be far out to the right. We're going to brake heavily when the tyre marks start, down to second. We want to late apex this so that we can get on the gas, use all of the exit curb. You can use everything up to the dirt. And then we just want to cut off this dog leg. But we want to make sure we're straight before the curbing starts here on the outside, because we need to brake heavily down into second, cut off a fair portion of the inside here, and then on the gas really heavily, just making sure we just avoid that yellow curbing. Really fast right-hander now, turning in right at the end of the curb, gently brushing the brakes. We want to apex just after the yellow curb and use all this exit here. We're going to gradually put ourselves over to the right. We've got a nice rest here on this long straight, and we're going to need it. It's rough down here. We're braking at the sign there before the 100 marker, all the way down into first. A late apex again, so we can get on the gas. We need to avoid this yellow curb on the right. It's going to upset the car. Up into second, up into third, easy over this curb, and then about 40% on the brakes, and then bleed right off, hugging tight and watching out for that yellow curb again, because we want to be on the gas before that hits. And then we're coming down on the brakes just at this orange block on the wall. Fine as we can here, out towards the middle of the track, aiming for the middle of that outside curb, and then heavy on the brakes briefly so we can get a really tight turn in here. No more brakes here, just use the gas to modulate yourself. And then it's full gas all the way around the final turn. And using as much exit as we can here, so we're turning the wheel as little as possible. So that was our 142.13. Okay, so let's have a look in more detail now. It's really taxing track, a real killer to finish the season. We're going to use everything we've learned in the last 12 weeks. Really going to push us to the limit here this week. We're looking ahead now, and we're looking for the lights that are going to be before the 100 marker. We want to come over and use a good bit of the green here. I don't actually use much of it on this lap, but you can get two wheels straight on it. There are the lights. We want to brake really heavily. We've got a long straight braking zone, so we can really put our foot down on those brakes. We're whizzing down the gears, and we're turning in quite early here. Now the idea is we want to be looking to the right, to that inside curb, that yellow block there. We want two wheels to the right of that block, and you can get two wheels on the dirt here absolutely fine. I missed this corner a bit. It didn't slow me down too much, so I stuck with it. It was a good lap, so I stuck with it. Now we're going to modulate off the throttle just so as we can hug tight here. We're only coming off the throttle a bit, but we don't want to take too much curb here. A, it's slippery, and B, the off track's a bit hard to spot. Out towards the middle of the track, we want to steer outwards a little to the left, and then start steering in where those orange wall markers are. And then we're coming off the gas. When we see the Pirelli sign up ahead, we're just brushing the brakes ever so gently. We want to keep tight on the inside of this apex. And then when we see the red past the wall in the distance, we're just really gently coming into the gas, and just really progressively pushing it. Now we don't want to get a couple of wheels on the dirt here because it's going to upset the car. but we're just using that throttle to modulate, you know, so we hug tight on the inside of that corner. We let the car swing out nice and wide. And we've got another tight right-hander coming up now, so we need to use as much of the road here as we can. Now, after the car's passed onto the black and yellow, and a good couple of car lengths before the Repsol bridge, we want to come down on the brakes about 55–60%. We're down into second. We're turning in quite tight at the end of the curbing on the left, and we really want to hug tight here. We're really lingering on the brakes here, and then as soon as we see the Repsol signs up ahead, as we're seeing now, we want to start coming on the gas super gently. We want to keep on the inside all the way around this corner. It's the fastest route around here, but we need to make sure we don't put our foot down too hard because the back end's going to swing out here. So really gently into the throttle around that corner. Just keep it over to the right. Now, as soon as we start seeing the tyre marks on the track, we want to hit the brakes about 50–60%. And we're braking quite straight into the turn. And then we're turning in just towards the end of the curbing. And we want a late apex here. So we're braking all the way around onto the apex. And we want the car to be turned in as much as possible at this point so we can start throttling up nice and aggressively. Use as much of this curb as we want. As long as we don't go on the gravel, we're good. And then we're just going to keep pointing the car in this direction just so as we can cut off a bit of this corner. We don't need to take the long way around here under the bridge. But what we do need to do is make sure we get ourselves nice and straight before the curbing starts on the outside of the track, because we need to brake. We need to get ourselves down into second as we're turning in here. It's a fast corner, but it's a dodgy one. So we're turning in. We're trail braking in quite deeply, but we're back on the gas. And we're aiming for this late apex here, and we're looking up to the right to that yellow curbing. We need to avoid it. You can ride it a bit without getting a incident, but if you don't get it bang on, it's going to mess up the car. You're better off just avoiding it. And then we're exiting out to the left. And then we've got a really fast right-hander here. So all we're going to do is let off the gas and just touch the brakes ever so slightly. And we're turning in right at the end of the curb, just brushing the brakes. And what we want to do is turn in so we're apexing just after the yellow curb. And then we know that we can lay the throttle down reasonably heavily and still make this turn. It's very hard to carry the speed around here. You need to make sure you're apexing just after the yellow curb to really get this down. So we've got a nice long straight now. We've got a nice rest because we've got a tough section. The last sector of this course is the toughest of many you'll ever find. We've got a really long braking zone in a straight line, very heavy braking. We need to be braking really heavily on this sign here on the right before the 100 board, and we're going to go all the way down into the brakes, good 90–95% easily. We're coming right down to first gear. We're turning in just as the orange walling on the left ends, and we want to be in first as we bleed right out the brakes, slightly late apex. And what we want to do is make sure we're watching that yellow curbing on the right, because we don't want to ride it. We just want to get close to it without touching. Now you have to come into the gas quite gently here in first gear. You're going to lose traction really easily, even with traction control. At low speed, it's dodgy. And we're turning in. We're up to second. We're just going up to third very briefly. But we're just lifting off the gas slightly for this curb. And then we're turning in at the middle of the track here and braking briefly at about 40% and bleeding out really quickly. And what we want to do is just make sure that we're hovering the brakes so we can hug tight around here, looking ahead now for the yellow curbing, and when we see it and we know that we're hugging nice and tight to the inside, we can start laying down the gas really, really gently with slightly off camber. The left-hand side of the car is loaded up really heavily. If you go too heavy on the throttle here, you are going to spin. Use all of the curbing, and then this orange wall marking on the left is our signal to brake down into second again. It's not an ultra heavy braking zone, but it's better to brake earlier and slightly lighter so that we can get the best possible entrance to this right-hander. Obviously, we just don't want to hit that yellow curbing, but we want to get close. We don't want to use all of the exit. We're sacrificing that so that we can aim for the middle of the curbing on the right after the bridge. We're going to hit the brakes just before. Ignore the shadow. Don't use the shadow as a marker. And then we're aiming for the middle, straightening up, braking again, and turning in, looking up to the left now to this apex. We need to cut it nice and tight. And now we're already looking up to the right. Now we're not going to brake again now, but what we are going to do is modulate the throttle just to make sure that we can A, stick nice and tight to this right hand curb, and B, make sure that we don't ride out too far on exit and hit the yellow curbing. This is a horrible, horrible section of track. Full throttle now. We're going to turn in just at the end of the curbing, and we're going to aim to apex by the outer pit wall that starts shortly, and then we're going to ride all the exit curb. Sector 3 here is hell. Practice, practice, practice. It's tough, but it is a lot of it is momentum. So slow in, fast out. I know I always say it, but with these kind of sectors where you need the momentum, but it's tight, you know, you're better to err on the side of caution with the braking coming in so that you can really line yourself up well for the perfect apex and the fastest exit. It's really going to pay here. So good luck here. Tough week, tough week. I wish you the best of luck. Please do let us know how you get on. Always keen to know how you're doing. So thanks very much for joining me for this season of guides for the BMW 12.0. I've had a great time. We're moving up to IMSA next season. I hope you come and join me. It's so much more rewarding. I think BMW 12 is great for a quick fix. It is not proper iRacing racing. IMSA's 45 minutes. You've got a pit stop. You've got multi-class racing. It's more competitive. It's open setup. I'm going to help out, hopefully, with all these things if you need the help, and do the usual track guide stuff as well. So thanks for watching. Please do hit subscribe and hit the little bell if you want to see more. And this is pretty much your last chance. If you want to win $15 of iRacing credits, make sure you're subscribed. Like any video and comment on the same video from any that I've published during February, and you'll be in with the chance of winning that prize. I'm going to pick at random at the end of the month, so watch out for a little update on that very soon. Thanks again, guys. Have a really good week here. Good luck. See you soon. Cheers.